Joe Biden and the Biden White House are now threatening Texas. How dare they secure their own border and pass their own laws since the federal government won't handle the immigration problem? The threat comes from the DHS and the Biden administration. You can see they warned Governor Greg Abbott from Texas. They say, if you dare enforce a new law that allows the Texas authorities to arrest, jail, or prosecute, or even deport migrants, they're going to take legal action against Texas. The Justice Department officials sent the letter. We're going to read the letter, but it's in response to a Texas bill called SB4 that's part of the state's Operation Lone Star. Goes into effect March 5th. SB4 was signed into law by Greg Abbott. It makes illegally entering the U.S. from Mexico a state crime, and it authorizes the police to arrest the individuals who are suspected of crossing the Rio Grande between the ports of entry. Migrants who are caught illegally enter the country are going to be charged with a Class B misdemeanor, punishable by up to 6 months in jail. Repeat offenders would be subject to a second-degree felony, which would be punishable by up to 20 years in prison. Now, the law allows Texas judges to drop the charges against the migrants if they agree to be deported. The new law, they say, that from the DOJ, intrudes upon the federal government. And this could lead to migrants being imprisoned. And how dare you do something like that against the federal government? Now, Abbott's rep said Texas is prepared to take this fight all the way to SCOTUS if we have to, and saying that we're going to protect Americans and Texas from Biden's broken border problem. And so the government is totally botching the border. I think it's, largely by design. Here are some scenes here on what it looks like. This is in Lukeville, Arizona, for example. Border Patrol getting pounded with mass illegal crossings tonight. Here's the scene. This is what it looks like in Arizona. Texas is no better. Here's another picture of this. Lots of people just coming on in, right? All claiming asylum and being shifted around the interior of the United States. That's from Bill Melugin, who has been doing some great reporting there. Now, he had these knuckleheads who actually went down there to have a meeting with the Mexican components, and the White House released some statements about what they talked about. We saw that we had Mayorkas and Blinken down there to apparently try to solve this problem, but they were actually releasing and changing their press releases. This guy's there, Jose Diaz Briceño. He's a correspondent. He says, little transparency from the AMLO government and the Biden governments on what they discuss behind closed doors. The joint U.S.-Mexico communique has zero news, right? Here's what it looks like. President of Mexico, AMLO, received in Mexico City Blinken and Alejandro Mayorkas. They thanked Joe Biden for sending the delegation. The two countries reaffirmed their existing commitments. Okay, that's great. What commitments? Open borders with tens of thousands of people coming across on the daily? They say existing. This includes reinforcing our partnership to address the root causes of migration. I don't know what that means ultimately, because what we need is the border secured. It's like, what do you care about where they're coming from or why they're coming here? Just stop them. This includes reinforcing our partnership to address poverty, inequality. And they wrote, look, see this phrase here, democratic decline? That's going to get deleted. They didn't like that word in Mexico. Democratic decline. What does that mean? And violence for the two countries. Also, Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans. Ongoing cooperation, which means enhanced efforts to disrupt human smuggling, trafficking, and criminal networks. Continuing the work to promote the legal instead of irregular migration pathways. They're not doing anything. Although both delegations agreed on the importance of maintaining and facilitating vital bilateral trade at our shared border. Okay, so nothing's changing. President Lopez highlighted the commitment of Biden to pursue regularly and secure migration. He stressed the need to continue political engagement with the countries. Both delegations underlined the efforts of pursuing development through assistance and humanitarian aid. Delegations also discussed the benefit of regularizing the situation of long-term undocumented migrants and DACA recipients. Two delegations agreed to meet again in January. Mexico's entity was there. Those on behalf of the United States, Blinken was there. Okay, nothing changed. They got nothing done. Here, the AMLO government edited out the Spanish version. Okay, they didn't like what they put in there. So when they wrote democratic decline in the White House's statement, they got rid of it. They deleted it in Mexico. What democratic decline are you talking about? That's not happening here. And then the White House edited their version. Okay, they also took out that phrase. The White House edited the English version also to exclude the democratic decline. It's appeasing AMLO, of course. And so nothing happened there. It's all just a dog and pony show, just for show, nothing meaningful. And now when Texas tries to do something about this, here's what the government says back to them. This is from Brian Boynton, Principal Deputy Assistant to Merrick Garland. sending it over to Ken Paxton, Ryan Waters, and of course, Governor Greg Abbott, saying, "Dear Governor Abbott, Texas recently enacted Senate Bill 4, which will become effective on March 4th. The law purports to create new state crimes tied to federal prohibitions on unlawful entry, and it would authorize state court judges to remove non-citizens." Now, SB4, they say, is preempted, and it violates the U.S. Constitution. Accordingly, the United States is going to sue you to stop the enforcement in Texas. The United States is committed to securing the border, no you're not, and ensuring the processing of non-citizens with immigration and national security, and SB4 is contrary to these goals. They say the U.S. Constitution gives the feds the right to control the international borders, and to that end, Congress has established a comprehensive scheme, doesn't work, governing the entry and removal, among other things, penalties, and so on. But your law effectively creates a separate state immigration scheme by imposing criminal penalties for violations of the federal law, and therefore it intrudes into a field that is occupied by the federal government, which is preempted. Indeed, the Supreme Court has confirmed that the removal process must go to the feds, and any decisions have to be made with one voice. Saying SB4 in Texas also conflicts with federal law. It interferes with the government's ability to enforce the entry and removal, and it improperly regulates the movement of persons across an international boundary and undermines our foreign relations. And so because SB4 is unconstitutional, and because it will disrupt our operations, which are nothing like other than just waving people in, we request that Texas forbear its enforcement. To the extent you believe there are any facts or law supporting the validity of your law, we urge you to bring them to our attention. Please consider this lettuce as notice that we at the Department of Injustice intends to bring a lawsuit against Texas to stop you from governing your own area. If you have not confirmed by January 3rd that Texas will forbear SB4, the United States is going to pursue all legal remedies to ensure that Texas does not interfere with the functions of the federal government. Signed by Brian Boynton, Principal Deputy to the Attorney General. It's like, what does Texas even need the federal government for anymore? Like, what are they doing here? You know, it's a pretty big state. They've got a lot of resources. If the federal government is going to want Texas to basically self-immolate until they die, what is Texas still doing here as part of the federal government apparatus? Now, if we also see that other states are disenfranchised, right? They don't get to vote for their candidate. 1.3 million Coloradans are gone. 400,000 Mainers are gone. What happens if they try to remove our right to even vote for our candidates in this country? What's going to happen to this country when the federal government is the biggest tyrant around? It's not going to be good. So that's what is happening in Texas, and we see people are still continually piling in at the border. Speaker Mike Johnson had something to say about this. He said, "At a time when America is experiencing the worst border crisis in our nation's history, it's unconscionable to hear the Biden administration's announcement that Mayorkas and Blinken discussed amnesty." That's what they're talking about. The United States must focus on policies that deter, not attract people who are trying to come in. This development further demonstrates that this administration has no real intention of solving this disaster. Biden needs to stop vacationing and do something about this. Well, he's not. So thanks, Johnson, for that nice comment. We've got some solutions being proposed. Representative Paulina Luna had this to say, says, "We need a standalone border bill. We need more than what's happening here." And this is what she said.
"Oh no, not another caravan just in time for election season to give the talking heads in Washington and in the media something to talk about and something for you to vote on. Let's just be clear about something. These caravans don't just happen by accident. Many times they are organized by NGOs. What'll happen, and I love it how the media says that this is a conspiracy theory, yet they've literally found documentation, literature. For goodness sake, sometimes these people have cell phones that they're actually given in order to organize these massive marches to the US-Mexico border. So let's be clear about something. The fact that they have media there covering this, the fact that you will see, and the general understanding is these people are all Hispanic, let's be clear about something. There have been many people apprehended from around the world, to include communist China, to include Africa, to include the Middle East. Oh yeah, and people that have been apprehended on the terrorist watch list. That's right, you heard it, the terrorist watch list, meaning they don't like us, they hate our guts, and they want to kill us. So to hear that this is somehow a humanitarian thing and we need to just blanket wave these people in, one, it's stupid, but also it's a political talking point. And let me just be clear about something. We absolutely have the ability to stop this, and we should.
We do. Oh, no. It's not complicated, right? It's just a border, not a complicated thing. You can secure it. Many other nations around this world have done it. It's not even that big of a border, okay? We can figure it out. But the problem are the incentives that cause people to come. If you can just say everybody gets asylum, come on in, we'll give you everything you need. And I've also seen photographs of like trucks bringing in people's luggage, like legally. The one guy who can come in and go legally brings all their luggage in. The rest of them just walk across the border, pick up their luggage at a drop-off spot. So it's just, a wild situation. Our government is of course orchestrating it. They want this to happen, and we'll see if Congress does anything about it. Of course, no, they're not going to. So the only other solution is to bring in a candidate who's had a long commitment to securing the border, somebody who actually tried to do it. That's Donald Trump. So we'll be here covering this, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining us wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.